quick, powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword. So let's get straight to the point. Just want to quickly say, we have millions of people around the world in danger of losing their jobs if they don't take this vaccine. And several news medical contributors are saying that these vaccines are all safe. Okay? Failing to admit that there are countless cases all over the world where people are having major side effects due to the vaccine. So the question is, and the question still stands to be, how is it that the CDC and the FDA would continue to give an approval for a vaccine that's destroying lives? Let me say this. There is no misinformation, disinformation, whatever they want to call it. There is no misinformation on the acute of the vaccine. My brother's H&P report, his consultation report, his operation report will prove this argument. And we recognize that everyone's genetic makeup is different. We recognize that. Some are affected by the shot and some people are not. And I believe President Obama said it best when he said that there's a great danger when we shut out anything that contradicts our own sense of righteousness in big debates. Now, let me show you the manifestation of God's presence. My brother took his first dose of the vaccine, and within 24 hours, he was in ICU. It was not the Johnson vaccine. Let me make that clear. But prior to getting admitted to ICU, my brother called me, and I can hear in his voice that God might be calling him home. So he calls and says, "Can you head this way, man?" But unbeknownst to him, I was already there because I was told that he was on his way to the hospital earlier. So while I'm on the phone with him, he says, "I have to go now because I'm not feeling well, Kendall." And his wife begins to scream out of nowhere, "Oh my God, oh my God." Blood began to flow out of his mouth like a fountain of water. And immediately they rushed him into surgery because we were told later by the doctors that he only had 2 hours to live. So afterwards, his doctor said the reason why he was bleeding so much was because he had blood clots on the right side of his lung. His right lung was bleeding so badly until the blood began to spill over into the left lung. So they placed him into an induced coma, and they paralyzed his entire body, hoping to stop the bleeding. Okay, they placed a balloon in his body, and the balloon, works like a diaphragm. It's a strong muscle that kind of like expands and contracts to cause your lungs to fill up with air and emptying out once again, keeping you alive. So he was under for I think he was like about 72 hours. His body was now cold. They had pretty much given up on him. And once I walked into the room and I saw his condition, I laid hands on him and I began to weep over him and pray for him. It was pretty tough. And I laid hands on him after praying for him. My brother had a IV infiltration that burned his arm from the inside out, leaving a permanent scar. And people had been praying for him, all over the world because they knew the effects that he had on countless lives. So at the time, he had been under for, I think, too long at the time. So we had to make a quick decision because he was still bleeding. And we were in discussion with doctors, and we were given two choices, either to have emergency surgery or airlift him to a trauma center, which was about 45 minutes away. And we were told he was too critical to airlift, and we didn't want to cut him open. It was tough because we had already lost one brother / cousin to brain cancer. So out of nowhere, God shows up. God shows up and the bleeding stops. The doctors were baffled. They don't know why, can't figure out what's causing the bleeding, and didn't know what caused the bleeding to stop. But as a family, as believers in Christ, we knew because of who we serve. So they immediately began to wean him off the meds to wake his brain up so that his motor skills and his bodies would wake up. So for days, we sat back and we watched God work. It was like watching God raise a man from the dead. And we believe the doctors knew in their hearts what caused this horrific experience, but they never reported it. I believe it was a few months later Uh, one of the best pulmonologists in the country stated when he saw my brother that he couldn't say that it was the vaccine and he couldn't say that it wasn't the vaccine. But he did say the vaccine caused a positive side effect. It was a side effect called hemoptysis, okay, a coughing up of blood. And this doctor was distraught, man. He was distraught for the negligence, for the carelessness and disregard of my brother. And so he finally reported the case. Once God woke my brother up, he was unable to see nor talk. Okay, he had to learn how to walk, how to talk, pick up a spoon. I mean, he could not clean or feed himself. I mean, I saw this personally firsthand, how the side effects of the vaccine affected him psychologically, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So my brother had 3 months of physical therapy just to learn how to walk and do those and use his faculties. I mean, he's still recovering this very day. So we're talking like 6 weeks after his discharge, he had a CT scan. He had a CT scan with contrast. Listen, there was no acute findings to determine he was bleeding from his lungs. None. It was the blood clots. Okay, that was the cause. It's been months later, and now they're trying to diagnose him with PAH, pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's a life-threatening condition that gets worse over a period of time. And PAH means that you have blood pressure, high blood pressure in the arteries that goes from the heart to the lungs. So this is very different from regular heart blood pressure. Let me make that clear to you. My reason for sharing this story is because people need to know the truth. They need to know the truth, okay? Because it happened to our family. It happened. You know, there was a lady in Walmart complaining the other day about why 2 of her male family members had passed away because of the jab. Now, listen, I can only speak on our family situation. Can't speak for nobody else's because we have the facts, okay? There has been other cases of people suffering from the side effects of the vaccine. And we are waiting for the CDC, the FDA, and the U.S. Surgeon General to report those cases.